The lookup functions are basically cross-referencing functions. In other words, if you have labels set up for your columns and labels set up for your rows, Excel can come into your database here and be able to cross-reference your column labels with your row labels and pull out the specific data within that cross. So for example, if a customer comes in and says, look, my product was made in 2007 and the model number over here, the label is 450, I can actually eyeball this and cross-reference it and say the part number you need is 114122. Now, because this is such a small database, I could easily eyeball this, but if I had hundreds of columns and thousands of rows, I mean, that could just take forever to scroll through. So what I want to do is use a lookup function. Now, there's two lookup functions. You have your horizontal and your vertical lookup. In this training video, I want to cover the horizontal lookup. The horizontal lookup is going to look in the topmost row of my database, where the vertical lookup is going to look up in the leftmost column. This is the biggest difference between the two. But to understand it, we need to get started. So first of all, I need to define in the topmost row here what column I want to reference. And I want to use it by label. And the label here, the number I'm looking at, let's say is the year 2004. So I'm going to come down here and say the year is 2004 and hit enter. Then in another cell, I want to go ahead and insert my lookup function, which is going to be my horizontal lookup. Now I put down here a model 300 as a reminder that I want to cross-reference label for this row here 300 in my function. So after I clicked in the cell that I want to insert my function, I'm going to come up here on the Formulas tab to the Function Library group and click on the drop-down arrow for Lookup and References and click on HLOOKUP or Horizontal Lookup. This is going to ask me three questions. First of all, what's my lookup value? It's going to be the column label for 2004. What's the range of my table or my database? It's going to be this range here. And then what's the row number? You know, which row here that I want to look up to get my perfect cross-reference for the year 2004, this row 300 to get, what I should get is the 402011 part number. So first of all, the lookup value, well, it's in this cell, E17. So I'm going to go ahead and you can type in E17 or click on the collapse dialog box button to collapse this so it's out of the way. Then click in E17, it adds it right here. Hit enter on the keyboard. Next is the table. So I need to select the table range or just punch it in. So I'm going to come up here and click and drag and select the table here. Now the table that I selected here, I want to keep in mind when it comes to the horizontal lookup, it's going to look in the topmost row and compare these values here to my criteria value here specified in E17. It's going to say, okay, 2004. It's going to take that, it's going to look up in here and say which one of these column labels is greater than or equal to 2004. Well, it's greater than 2002. It's equal to 2004. Once it finds it, it's going to say this is the column I'm going to look up in. Okay. So we have the column that's looking it up, which is 2004. We have the table. Now we need to define what row we want to look up so we can get the perfect cross-reference. Now, it's not talking about the row number over here on your row headers here, the numbers. It's actually talking about the row number within your selected table. And my selected table began up at the top in A4, right? There's A4. And I'm going to start here, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is row 6, where my 300 model number is. So I type in row 6 here, hit the tab key, and then if I automatically get a value here, which is 402011, which is the exact value that I'm looking up, then it tells me that I'm doing something right. If I didn't get any values here, then I may have selected the wrong table. For example, remember when it comes to the horizontal lookup function, it's going to look in the topmost row. What if I collapse this and say my topmost row is this row right here, where there's no labels in it, no numbers, no values to compare it to equal or greater than to my criteria here. Then when I click on the expandable dialog box button, and I hit the tab key, it doesn't give me any value. It's just basically an error because there's nothing up here in the row, it's blank. So I need to make sure I collapse it and select it correctly so my topmost row has my labels in it, and then hit enter, and then you can see the values there. So all I have to do is go ahead and click OK, and there it is, 402011. The cool thing about this is that later on, now that I have it set up, it took me a little while to set it up. If I have another client that comes in through the door, it says, look, I'm looking for model number 300 for the year 2008. Just come up here, change it to 2008, hit enter, because remember this function is based upon E17 here, automatically update it for us. So let's see if it's right. 2008, and remember it was row 6. I mean, that's not going to change unless I come to the function here and change row 6, so it's still always going to be 300, so there it is, 992718. What if I have a client that comes in that gives me a different model number? First of all, you could come in here into the function, and let's say they gave you the model number of 450. Well, then we have to count down which row that's on. Beginning up at the top, The first row is 1, model, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we could say for 450 it's going to be row 9. Come up here in the formula bar and delete row 6 and say it's now row 9 and hit enter, and it should pull us up 450 for row 9 in the year 2008, 70, 74, 17. That's one way you can do it. The other way you can do it, instead of changing it within the actual function, let me go back and change this to 6 and hit enter. You could create another cell down here and say this is going to be for my 400s, this is going to be for my 450s, and just keep on doing that. And then coming up here and clicking and dragging your autofill handle down so it actually copies the function here down to the next two cells here. Now, of course, we're running into problems because we don't have absolute values or constants set to these cells or these ranges, so they don't update when I copy and paste my function. If you haven't watched the previous training videos on copying, pasting, and dealing with the functions here, this isn't probably going to make sense. But quickly, what's going on here is that when I copy this function and paste it down here, because I'm moving it down a row, it also wants to move my selection here from my table down one and also my criteria down one. How do I know? Well, first of all, experience. Second of all, if I select my error here and come up in the formula bar and click on that, look at it. It shifted this box down one, so my header row is no longer the labels here for the years, and it included the blank row down below, so it shifted down one. All I have to do is hover over the border, click on it, and drag it back up to where it should be. And then also down here for my criteria, I need to click on that blue box border and drag it back up to 2008, hit enter, and good. We're there. This has also got the same issues. Don't trust these numbers here. So I'd click on this, and it shifted it down 2 because it's the second time that I pasted it down 2 rows. So then I'd have to click and drag that up 2, click and drag that up 2. So again, it's referencing the same area, the same table here for the 450, and also the same criteria, the year, and then hit enter. So I have all these different model numbers for my row labels. All I have to do is again come up here, type in a new year, and it'll automatically update to all the ones down below. Now you notice in E17 my criteria is 2003, and the HLOOKUP function went to the top row and said is it greater than or equal to 2002 or 2004? Well, since it's not greater than 2004, it takes 2002 and returns that column. If I want an exact lookup or give me an error, all I have to do is tweak the function. Come down here, click in the cell where the function's at, click on the insert function button so I can pull back up my function arguments. Down here in the range lookup, I want to say 0. In other words, if it's not an exact lookup, then I don't want anything. And you can see it's false. It's not an exact lookup. So when I click OK, it gives me non-applicable. So if I come up here and I say, well, 2003 doesn't exactly match anything up here, but if I do find something 2004, it actually gives me the number. So if I'm punching through here and I don't know the database, and I go, oh, sure, we have the 2003 year here, and I hit enter, it's like, no, you know what, not for part number 300. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, as soon as I upload a new video, you'll be notified instantly, and you can do that by coming over here and clicking on my face. You can also click here to support me, so for $2 a month, you can have access to over 2,700 training videos, all ad-free, and for a few bucks more, you can have access to my exercises, instructor notes, quizzes, certificate of completion, and a whole lot more.